Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Joey of Rockledge. Today's guest is yet another in our recent string of fascinating female guests. We had Mira Desi, Arielle Crawford, Rachel Giazza over the past 3 weeks, and today we're talking to Margie Bissinger, a physical therapist, integrative health coach, and my favorite, happiness trainer. We love authors on this show, and Margie is the author of Osteoporosis, an exercise guide. She's also the host of the podcast, Happy Bones, Happy Life, where she speaks to leading experts about what we can do to make sure we have healthy bones throughout our entire lives. Astute listeners of this podcast might be wondering what's happening here and whether the influence of Joey of Rockledge is tilting this podcast towards her interests and away from mine. Like I said, it's our fourth female guest in a row, so I've wondered that too. Although I'm the one who booked Margie for this show, not Joey. So for anyone wondering, I am still in charge. Seriously though, the yogis, or particularly the Vedantists, will tell you that there is no such thing as male or female. Those distinctions are nothing but illusion. We are all part of the one supreme spirit that permeates every single thing in the universe while also containing those things. All differences are nominal only. Our unity is what matters, not our apparent and illusory differences. And more to the point, while Margie does specialize in osteoporosis, she also specializes in food, just like our recent guest Mira Desi, because our bodies, which include our bones, are, at the end of the day, made of the food that we eat. And I don't mean this metaphorically. I mean it literally. You are what you eat. The yogis go so far as to call your physical body your food body. It's both made of the food that you eat and will ultimately be food for something else when you die. And we all eat food, not just men or women. In any case, enough about yogis and me. Let's talk to Margie. Welcome to the show, Margie. It's good to have you.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now. Right here, right now. Whoa, right here, right now.
So can you just tell us a little bit about what osteoporosis actually is? Like, I have a general idea, but also that and how you came to be here today.
Oh, sure. So osteoporosis, the word itself means porous bones. And so when you're looking at osteoporosis, there are a couple things. It's the quantity of bone, how much bone, but also the quality. And so if there's a problem in the microarchitecture of the bone that you do have reduced quantity and quality, it becomes porous, more likely to fracture. And it's really common. You know, most people think, oh, it's an older person's thing. I don't have to worry about it. But truly, in the world, it's 1 in 3 women over 50 will have a fracture due to osteoporosis in their life, and 1 in 5 men. And in the United States, it's 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men. So and then when you have a fracture, the consequences are devastating. That's why I'm so passionate, because there's so much that can be done. And when someone has a fracture, almost 25% of people will die within the year after a hip fracture.
Wow.
So it's something that, the good news is it's something at all ages. You know, we build most of our bone before the age of 20. And so there's so much we can do at all ages for strong bones. So then you don't have to worry about it when you get older. But even at any age, there's a lot you can do. And how I came to it. So I'm a physical therapist, and my expertise is orthopedic physical therapy, working with necks and backs and all sorts of things. And over 25 years ago, I started getting patients referred to me from endocrinologists to put them on an exercise program for osteoporosis. And what I was seeing was people were trying to help themselves, but then they were doing exercises that, they didn't know where to turn. So they would just go to the trainer, or they would see, but this was even before the internet really became popular. And so they would be looking at magazines, and they were doing exercises that actually increased their risk of spinal fractures. And that just upset me terribly, and said to me that I have to get out there in a big way. That's when I wrote my book, got involved nationally, got involved in New Jersey, where I live, working with people to spread the message. And yeah, so that's how I got started. And the good news is there's so much that can be done. There's a lot of misinformation, and the bones aren't in isolation. So that's the good part. I always look at it as, you get this diagnosis and people are so freaked out, but I look at it as an opportunity, just like so many things in life. It's an opportunity to sort of examine your life. What may be areas that you're not taking care of? Because if it shows up in the bones, it's not usually just not the bones. It's usually other things as well. And then when you make those changes, everything gets better. So that's it in a nutshell.
Before moving into the question of bone health itself, that stat you just said, did I hear you right? Like in the U.S., we are more likely to have bone issues.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The statistics in the United States are 1 in 2 women over 50 will have a fracture due to osteoporosis in their lifetime, and 1 in 4 men. Where worldwide, it's 1 in 3 and 1 in 5.
Is there an explanation for that? We have poorer bone health here, or we're more active and fall over more often?
No one knows exactly the reason. I mean, a lot of people think the panacea is, drink more milk. And they say one of the biggest milk countries, the United States, has the most fractures. But that's, I think there's a lot of things that happen. A lot of, people are very sedentary. People, they're not doing they're not active, and activity is really important. And I think so many people, live on junk food, and their diets are so poor. And even if, and it's a more processed food, they're not eating like people do who are living more rural or in other areas. So as a society becomes more technologically advanced, sometimes they took communities that were doing okay and they put a road in, way back. And then what happened? All of a sudden you introduce fast food, diabetes, heart disease, all sorts of problems that never occurred before happen. So that could be, they've never really said exactly the reason, but I think there's a lot more primitive, or people who are eating more from, eating more whole foods versus processed foods that we do in this country. And I just think the lifestyle, it's very stressed here. Not that it's not in other places too, but I think there's a lot of factors that contribute, but those are the statistics. Yeah.
Well, I talked to my aunt. She's in her 70s now, and she's got osteoporosis. But in my mind, she did everything right. Like, she's always been active. She always ate well. But she said she had I guess there are some predispositions, but being postmenopausal is one. So just being older is.
Yeah.
So what can you do to prevent it? I mean, diet is got to be a huge part. But like, first, she seemed like she did all of the things right, but still, I think that maybe there's something that we're missing.
There's so many reasons, because when you get a bone density, that's just one number, and that doesn't indicate, are you actively losing bone, or maybe you didn't accrue as much bone. So if you were a kid who was more sedentary, the bones respond to the forces placed upon it. So for everybody out there at any age, you can do things for your bones, but even jumping, kids playing hopscotch, kids jumping and doing things, that's putting forces on the bone. It says, hey, we need more bone here. So that helps build strong bones. So if someone, when they were younger, as I said, for women, they have 85 to 90% of their bone by age 18, and men, it's 20. And so if as a young child, you didn't do all those things, maybe you didn't have as much bone. So as you age and postmenopausally, you will lose bone. So it's sort of like a bank. If you didn't have as much to begin with, then, as you can lose some, that can happen. But there's so many reasons that people can be yes, postmenopausal. Yes, that's and that now one thing people are afraid of, which they don't really need to be at that age, menopause, is you can go on bioidentical hormones, and they found that that's safe. There was such bad press because of this Nurses' Health study years ago, but working on hormones at a younger age can prevent osteoporosis. But yeah, so you can be doing things right. And then there's hidden causes. Your body can be there. Like I've seen such a big deal. Anything that causes inflammation. So for some people, dairy, gluten is a very, very, very big one I see. So there might be some underlying hidden causes that are also causing your bone to break down. But at all ages, you can do exercise. Like there's really great things that can be done that can make a huge difference.
And you mentioned dairy a little while ago, because I think that's what most people think. Because, I drink a glass of milk and I get my calcium. And
yeah, exactly.
Is it better? I mean, it doesn't really quite work that way, does it? Like
the problem with dairy, for a lot of people, it's inflammatory. And for a lot of people, they have issues with dairy, whether it's they're lactose intolerant, whether it's the casein. But for many people, it causes all sorts of issues. So increasing, and they haven't shown that increasing the calcium by dairy is the panacea to osteoporosis. So especially if it causes some type of inflammation, absolutely not. That's not what you want to do. That's not where you want to get your calcium. You want to get it from other sources. You can get it from greens, kale, collard greens, bok choy. You can get it from, sardines, like some of the bonefishes, salmon. So there's other ways to get calcium besides dairy. And again, if it's inflammatory, that's certainly not what you want to do. And a lot of people think that, I'll drink more milk. But that's, and the other thing I see all the time is people are, the doctors will tell you calcium and vitamin D. And if you and the problem is people might be getting calcium in their diet and then they're taking more. So more is not better. In the United States, the number they give is no more than 1,200 milligrams. In other countries, they have like lower amounts. But the point is that some people will be getting some in their diet and then their doctor may put them on 1,200, and that's too much. And there's been some research, nothing 100% conclusive, but showing more calcium can have negative effects, cardiac issues or kidney stones. We don't want calcium in the wrong places. So yes. So yeah.
What is the link with vitamin D? Like, because that's what it's been. It seems like everyone is vitamin D deficient these days. And so there's a link between is calcium absorption.
Exactly. The vitamin D helps the calcium absorption. And the other supplement that nobody talks about, but I think it's so important, it's called vitamin K2. And it comes in two forms, in MK4, MK7. Both are good. But that takes the calcium and puts it into the bones and sweeps it out of the soft tissue. And I think that's so important because no one wants extra calcium in their joints, in their arteries, places that we don't want it.
So
go ahead, Duff.
On your website, you talked about your son having some health problems and you sort of becoming more focused on your own diet as a result. And, one of the things that I found so fascinating during COVID is you would be hard pressed to find anyone discussing the quality of our diet as one of the contributing factors to our vulnerability to something like COVID. And, like you say, doctors just are talking about supplements and I get the feeling that our diet is much more central than we are either willing to admit or willing to, or even understand that a healthy diet for the bulk of your life is probably your best bet at preventing something like bone density loss too early. Like where does diet come in when you talk to your clients and patients? Like where is it in the in the overall strategy?
I couldn't agree with you more, Duff, because people underestimate. And in the medical, and my whole family are physicians, conventionally trained physicians. So my husband, everybody in my family, and they learn almost nothing in medical school. They really don't teach diet. They just don't. It's a huge issue and it's so important. But I'll go back to the story because I think it's so interesting. So I'm a physical therapist and I was working with osteoporosis as a physical therapist. Always been a healthy eater from what I knew, but again, I wasn't really trained. And anyway, then my son comes down in college with type 1 diabetes and he gains 25 pounds. They said, give yourself insulin and, he's like a bone. And and then someone I knew was a health coach who specialized in this, who had type 1 herself. And I had him see her. We went and we saw her, and she completely changed his diet. And it completely changed his life. He was totally able to manage the diabetes. And I just couldn't get over how a chronic condition like diabetes could be completely managed and changed. He didn't have to gain 25 pounds, and he figured out with her help what to do. And that, all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in my head. Like, first of all, everybody working with osteoporosis, I'm working with, this is a missing link. No one's really delving into the diet and what could be a problem. And I decided right that day, where did she go to school? I'm becoming a health coach. I'm really delving into nutrition and learning this. I came home that night. I said to my husband, this is non-negotiable. I'm doing this. But the interesting thing was, so I realized I have to practice what I preach. And I have Hashimoto's. It's a thyroid condition, very common. So I was on this medication called Synthroid. No problem, really. And I start making these changes in my diet. Not that my diet was terrible, but I did have sugar and I did have some processed food. So those were the two biggest things, and dairy. So I had gotten rid of dairy, processed food, and sugar. I guess that was sort of a big thing. Added more greens and other whole foods. Anyway, guess what? I was able to get off my thyroid medication. That was 12 years ago. I've been off for 12 years. I was able to get off all medication just for making the changes in my diet. And then I saw with my son, he's been doing great, thriving. He's getting married next month.
Okay, so what is your diet? What is your give us the weekly or the daily? What do you eat?
Well, I change it up, and I think it's important to change it up. But for the most part, I usually have like a smoothie in the morning where I'll put some. Because I have Hashimoto's, I still like to steam my greens. I don't eat a lot of raw greens. But I'll put some kale in, I'll put different seeds in, I put a little strawberry in, and what else do I put in? Collagen. So I make like a tasty smoothie in the morning. And then I will, and what else do I put in there? Yeah, sometimes. So anyway, so it's a tasty smoothie in the morning. I'll put some ginger in it and whatever. If I have some broccoli sprouts, I throw that in. Anyway, very healthy smoothie. Or sometimes I'll have eggs in the morning with kale and mushrooms and, something to that effect. Then for lunch, I usually have a salad with as many vegetables as I can, and protein. Protein is really important for osteoporosis, for everything. So I make sure I have protein in my shake. I make sure I have protein at lunch, but the protein is just maybe the most a quarter of the plate, but tons of vegetables, tons of herbs, whatever I can put in the salad. Or I have like steamed vegetables with some protein, and the protein could be eggs, it could be fish, it could be beans. I love garbanzo beans or whatever. So I have that for lunch. And then dinner, same type of thing. A quarter of the plate is sometimes, and I make interesting food, of protein, but then tons of vegetables, just figuring out how to get a lot of vegetables in my diet as well as with fiber and different things. So that's my basic. I'm fine, but if I eat sugar, I can have a blood sugar issue. So I tend to eat pretty low carb in terms of my basic diet, but I feel great. I have tons of energy. And, I used to be a sugar addict. I did. I used to honestly, real sugar addict that my husband likes to bake. Yeah. And I would, just take the silly chocolate chips and just eat the whole bag. And then I would just replace it, not say a word to anyone, crash it around 3:00. And I just couldn't stop myself with the sugar because it just, it's more addictive than cocaine. But I've been off it now, probably 12 years as well for that. And, the energy and just, I've been, knock on wood, very healthy. And, I'm not so young. I'm 64 right now, and I feel fabulous.
Nice work.
I bike, I ski, I swim, I exercise, I play tennis. I live a very active life, and I really feel great. So I think I know the diet contributes because I work with people all the time on this. And when they that's the beautiful thing, when they make some minor changes, it's people don't realize the power of food and how it can. And if we eat a crap diet, this is the gas you're putting into your system. So if you're eating processed food, there's so many additives. And, it was interesting. Just today in the New York Times, they were saying that 5, and I don't remember exactly which 5 they were, but they're banning, New York and California are looking to ban 5 different ingredients that are commonly in some of the food that we eat that's banned in Europe. Europe has a whole different quality of food that's allowed than the United States. And so New York and California were looking at certain things that they're going to take, that they're not going to allow to be in the food. It hasn't passed yet, but I was like, yay, there's so much junk. I'm sure Mira talked about this a lot.
It's interesting because I was shocked. I was reading, it was a book about yoga, and the guy said something. It never even occurred to me before. He's like, you are literally the last 50 meals you've eaten. Right? Like, where do you think you come from? Right? It's the stuff you put into you. So I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be made of ice cream. Or
you're a weed. You're a weed for sure.
Right? But it's to me, and look, this is someone I've recently come around. Joey changed our diet around here. But now that I've sort of clued into it, it's like diet is the answer to almost everything that ails us. Because if you're talking physical and obviously activity, but if you're talking about your physical body, it is what you have eaten that constitutes the sort of both your body itself, but also it's like self-healing power. It's amazing that, like, to me, the COVID thing, I'm going to repeat it. It's like we talk all the answers that we came up with. Oh, we need vaccines. We need contact tracing. We need better ventilation in buildings. It's like, no, we don't. We just need to eat better food.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. The interesting thing about the food, it's sort of, I always tell people, you wouldn't put the worst possible gas in your car, but yet that's what we do to our bodies. We fill ourselves with absolute junk, and
Right.
you just see people's diets. But I do want to add one caveat to that. It's not just what we eat, but what we digest. And in my community, digestion is a problem too, because it's sort of like the hose. You turn the water on, you're giving it the food, and then you're stepping on it. So if your digestion is impeded in some way, you may not be absorbing the nutrients. Because I see people who are really trying hard and they're eating a good diet, but yet when they get tested, they're very nutrient deficient because they have an issue with digestion. So that's just an important thing for everybody to know, if you're not having a bowel movement every day, that's not normal. A lot of people are like, I have reflux or I have stomach aches, and they just think that's part of normal living. It's not. You need to address that too if you're going to really reap all the health benefits from this good food that we're advocating people eat.
If there were 3 foods or 3 food items that you could ban yourself for everyone, what do you think they would be? Like, what are the just don't ever do them?
Okay.
If you can help it.
I think anything with trans fats. So that is, margarine, a lot of those oils, vegetable oil, these are really junk. It's not good. It's not good quality oil. So there's lots of damage that causes, let's say. So that's one. The sad thing, you're not going to like this one, but I see this so often. My husband would have died. I mean, you have to be honest. So the problem now is with wheat in this country. Not that I want to ban wheat, but the problem with wheat is that they spray it. They spray it with something called glyphosate, which is Roundup Ready. And they spray it because it's a desiccant. It makes the wheat ripen sooner. So now people are eating this wheat all wheat that's not organic has been sprayed with this glyphosate. And I really believe they've shown in animals it causes holes in the intestines. I mean, there's a lot of research how dangerous. So I think I want to ban non-organic wheat because everybody eats it. And I think it's a huge problem. And I think so many people have issues with gluten, and we don't know if it's the gluten or if it's the wheat. I mean, there's ways to know, but so there's so much junk food. Let me think with all the additives, and just the GMOs, like food that's any of the GMO food, because that's been sprayed with, that's the same thing. They make it so it can absorb more of this weed killer, but yet we're getting, we're getting that. Let's see. I mean, there's so many. I'm trying to think.
Someone told me once, I don't know if this is true, but someone told me that sodas like Coca-Colas and things actually sort of leach calcium from your bones Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yeah,
That
it is true. I mean, some of those are not good. It's not just the carbonation are okay. It's just some of the chemicals that are in there. There's just so many negative things. But I guess one more I'll say is high fructose corn syrup. And that's in like everything. You can see that in so many things. And they use it as a sweetener, but it's full of fructose. And that really can damage your liver. So there's all sorts of issues with high fructose corn syrup. And so I would say foods that contain that. But there's so many good foods. People are like, what? There's just so many good foods. And it's just not that hard. People, and I'm big into not causing overwhelm. So my thought is always, you start with one thing and you replace it. So I always start let's start with adding some leafy greens, add some kale or, add something good. And then if you're taking something away, substitute with something else. So you don't feel deprived, because, I believe in happiness and we don't want to deprive. You can eat like a delicious, nutritious, energizing meal that you're so happy. I mean, that's what I do, that I'm so happy about. I don't feel like, oh, I didn't get that piece of cake. Because once you get rid of it, I don't know, Duff, did you get rid of your sugar issue? Once you get rid of it, you don't want it.
My daughter and I, she's 14. We were, and we remain, we're fans of things like beef jerky. And at one point about a year ago, she referred to Joey as a vegan psychopath for taking all the good tasting food out of our diet.
I'm not vegan.
But can I just say something? There is delicious Paleo Valley's the company. There are some companies that make healthy beef, like beef jerky. They make delicious beef sticks that are yummy.
We try to use we make some venison jerky using venison from around here. But to your question, no, Joey has shown me that a plate can roll in from the kitchen where there's no sign of meat, or like you said, a small portion, and it's delicious. I think we lean heavy into spicy, a little spice. We go spicy in this house.
The super salad.
Yeah.
We have a salad with tons
crunch.
of veggies.
Yeah.
But
it's amazing.
All right. So, but let's go back to osteoporosis for a sec. If I have no idea what my mother's bone health is, although I'm sure it's quite good because she is as active as they come. When you give out just generic advice to women of a certain age, what do you say? What do they need to be doing? So we've covered some diet. They need to be active. Is there something else?
Yes, there's so much. So the thing is, a couple things. No matter where you're at, it's the fractures we want to prevent. It's not the number on the bone density test, because that's not even that accurate. Around 50% of people, more than 50% of people who fracture a bone, their bone density could be okay, could be normal. So that's not the only indicator. We want to fracture. We don't want to have a fracture. So what can we do? Every single person can improve their balance, because if you don't use it, you lose it. And as we get older, our balance tends to wane, and we don't want to fall. Falls are how we end up having fractures. So every single person, there's balance exercises that can be done. You can stand on one foot. I have a Qigong program that I do with another therapist. And I love Qigong and Tai Chi because you're learning to weight shift back and forth and different ways. And so when you do that, you practice that. So if you trip, you got that down. So that's been shown to prevent falls. There's so much good research on, Tai Chi and how that prevents, but balance exercises every single day, doing balance excises. Everybody can do something.
It's a great point. I started yoga about 10 years ago, and I would say that I have caught myself from almost falling so many more times in the last decade than in my entire life, right? Like your ability to not fall improves dramatically. That's a great one.
It's so true. I work with the state of New Jersey, and there we have these exercise programs that are free for anyone in the state of New Jersey. So it's been so interesting because we put in the Tai Chi, we put in some easy, just weight shifting Tai Chi exercises. And so many people have sent a note in, thank you. I tripped, but I caught myself. And, that just doing that, if you prevented a hip fracture, think about that. It's not that you die with, I mean, people die, as I said, I think it's 24% of people die within the year, but then people are stuck in a nursing home the rest of their life. There's so many horrible things that they can't get back to independent life. So by just doing the balance, if you prevent a fall, that's amazing. All right. So balance is really key. As I said, exercise, but strength training. It's not just walking. It's doing strength training and like resistance exercises at least twice a week.
Does yoga count for that? Or
it really doesn't. I mean, I love yoga, and I think I'm such a, like you, mind-body person, and mind-body spirit is the way to go. I just believe that so wholeheartedly. And it's interesting because there are a few studies on yoga increasing bone density, but when the people who really look at exercise and osteoporosis, like the universities, when they analyze the quality of the study, it's not good enough to say that but yoga is good for so many things. And sure, your balance, I mean, there's wonderful things about yoga. However, for anybody who actually has osteoporosis, they have to make some modifications in yoga because the rounding, forward bending exercises, like, the rounding in yoga, for someone with osteoporosis, if they actually have weakened bone, it's the front. I wonder if my spine's here. Are people watching this on video or mostly just listening? Yeah. Oh, can I show a spine then? Okay. Yeah. All right. I happen to have my handy spine here. So if we see the spine and we see this nice square shaped vertebrae and it's nice and tightly packed, that's like ideally what we want. If we look up here, we see it has more holes in here. But look at this one, the wedge shape. So people would have fractures. It happens in the front of the spine. This is the back, like if you touch your backbone. So think about now, if you were to, I can't bend this one, but if you were to bend this, all the forces are in the front of the spine. So they did a study at Mayo Clinic and they showed that when people only did rounding exercises over a 6-year period of time, they had an 89% fracture rate. Can you imagine?
Ooh.
Wow.
Huge. Versus people when they did
harsh
backward
payback for exercising. Wow.
But it's only when they did only those exercises. The backward bending had 16%, which was much better than the control group. So the point is, though, so someone with yoga, if you do have osteoporosis and you have yoga, if you do have osteoporosis and you're doing yoga, you just don't want to do the rounded posture. So what you do is you can bend from your hips with a straight spine. And you also don't want overpressure, and you don't want to go to the extremes of motion. So like the extremes of rotation, maybe like 80% or something like that. So there are some sheets on that. The Osteoporosis and Bone Health Foundation, they have Sherry Betts is another physical therapist who created these really good sheets that say precautions on osteoporosis, precautions on yoga and precautions on Pilates with osteoporosis. So they exist and they're good guidelines. So I'm totally a big fan of those. Just if you do have osteoporosis, take the precautions. Was that your question? Did I answer that question?
Yeah. And what about supplements? I had some left sacral something issues, and a doctor prescribed Ligaplex. It's like a skeletal and joint health. Do you talk about any dietary supplements?
Yeah, and I'm a big believer, if possible, I believe in test, don't guess. And so I like when people, when you're dealing with someone with osteoporosis, you want to do it right. You don't want to miss anything, because if they're choosing to, and there is a place for medication. It's not like nobody should go on medication. You certainly don't want to fracture. So if someone's bones are so weak, I do believe temporarily using medication in addition, depending. But for most people I see, a lot of people, you don't need to go that route. And so they see what's missing. So there's some micronutrient tests that you can, they're looking at the micronutrients, and you can sort of see what you don't have. But for most people, what I find, the key things for bone, but I do believe in doing that and just seeing all your nutrients, because you need everything. You really need everything. But you definitely need calcium. And I always say, get it from food first, and only when you're not getting enough, then supplement. Magnesium is a huge one. That also helps with the absorption of calcium. And most people are deficient in magnesium. So, but there's not one supplement, it's not that simple. Because for some people, if they have bowel issues, there's magnesium citrate that can help with constipation. Yay. So it depends, but most people need, and if they have digestive issues, I recommend soaking in magnesium. It's like transdermal. You can like soak your feet, but magnesium is a big one. And as I said, K2, I think is really very important. And either one. Yeah.
Do you get that in kombucha?
No.
No.
But kombucha
Okay.
is great because it's so good for all the good bacteria, and you're getting, they've done studies on the diversity of the microbiome, your gut, what's your gut bacteria. And there's a correlation with everything, but with bone health and good bacteria. So yeah, kombucha is a great thing. And so K2 is another one that's really important. And then, there's zinc. There's some other ones that we still want manganese. We want to have. So there's like a bunch of things, but I'd say, the key ones are the magnesium, the K2, having enough calcium and vitamin D. And most doctors will order your vitamin D level and you can see where they're at and they can help you figure out how much you need. But it's not a one size fits all. So many people give me the supplement, and you need to really see what the person's having, what's their diet, what are their issues. So there's different, if someone has inflammation, they're going to need to figure out supplements, or figure out what's causing inflammation. So it's not one size fits all, but those are the basics that I would say everybody needs. And we don't get enough of in our diet for the most part.
All right. Before we wrap up here, I think we should get to the real fun stuff, which is, you are a happiness trainer. And I know that you talk about some routines that we can work into our days, but there's the tickle there, right? You're helping people figure out how to stay happy and to be happy. Tell us what are some of your secrets? How do I get happier than I am? I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
Make me happy.
And I just want to say one thing. This is, I didn't finish that other question. What are the other components? So the diet, the exercise. I really believe stress reduction and increasing happiness because they've done studies now showing increased stress reduces the bone building cells. I mean,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a huge piece of what I teach. And, what I found as a therapist that when I started teaching people what helped me get through a hard situation, like all of a sudden chronic pain got better. It's amazing. So in terms of happiness, first of all, how do you wake up in the morning? I'm such a big believer. Tickle yourself, like you say, Duff. Tickle yourself first thing in the morning. Do you wake up and you look at your cell phone and you're already worrying about your day and worrying about, the problems in your to-do list versus don't do that. You wake up and you say some empowering things to yourself and ask yourself some empowering questions. Actually, these I didn't make up. These I learned from Reverend Michael Beckwith. But what's the greatest thing? What's the best thing that could happen to me today? What good exists that I presently don't see? So you start sort of looking your day, like what lies ahead, all the wonderful things, and you start visualizing and creating this day for you. Before. And then I believe in different, whatever works for you. But when you get up, so important. So I do something called Jin Shinjutsu, where I hold each finger just to get my energy going. It's a easy technique and it's so simple. And I just, do that. And then I journal and I do, you just hold it till you feel a pulse if you can. If not, just do a couple breaths. And each finger corresponds to different emotions and different body functions. But you don't even have to know that. It just gets your energy going and equalizes your energy. And then I personally journal. I love that. But each person can you find what works for you in the morning, but have some morning routine that you get yourself, looking at the possibilities for the day. So you start out on a good note. I also do some meditation. I have like a whole little morning routine, but everybody's different something. The other thing is how you view the world. I think the thoughts are just two things. The thoughts are so critical. 80% of the average person's thoughts are negative. And so, but we can readjust that. We can rewire ourselves and to start focusing, being a detective for the good. And when something good happens, they've done research on this because we all have good in our lives. Sometimes we just don't focus on it. You get a compliment and you get 20 compliments and one person says something negative. What do you absorb? The negativity. And so what you want to do when something good happens, you want to yay, celebrate it, soak it in. They found 20 seconds to create new neural pathways. So you see a sunset, just take it in. Or, someone says, Duff, this is I love what you're doing. I love your book. It's so good. Instead of, oh, thank you. yeah, I worked really hard on it. I'm so glad. Like, soak it in. So I think start changing your thoughts would be huge. And then I think we could go on and on and on. I mean, I teach a 8-week course on this with, different habits and things. But the other thing I think is also being a victim in life versus a victor. And I see this so much in people trying to heal. If you're a victim, like, oh, poor me, you get nowhere and you just live a miserable life. You really do. If you blame it, oh, poor me. And you sort of know if you're blaming, shaming, and complaining, and shaming is sort of self-blame, versus, okay, be a victor in life. Like, what are solutions? Instead of looking at this problem as, oh, poor me. Okay, this exists. Like, what are solutions? What can I do? And I think that just that mind shift completely changes everything. So that would be, in a nutshell, a few things that I think are really powerful and and I see it. I see, and they've shown that you can change your happiness set point, your base level of happiness. And I've seen this. I've been working with happiness for over 35 years with patients, and it's amazing how transformative it is.
So you talked about being a good detective. Joey, I think maybe we should launch the Happiness Detective Agency.
I'm on the case, stuff.
Right, you're on the case. People can come. It's like, we'll find it for you. Just we'll just look for the clues. Okay, we're going to be happiness detectives. That's our next career.
Love it. Love it.
Happiness farmers.
Joey, you got any other questions for Margie?
No, I think that you covered all the questions I had. The last was sort of natural treatments. I was talking to my aunt and she's like, are there any natural treatments? Because some of the more traditional ones are kind of scary, or they can be, like the traditional medicine. But are there any just sort of natural treatments that?
Oh, absolutely. The problem is this. The problem is the doctor. And again, I love doctors and I don't blame them because this is their training. You have a number on the DEXA that says -2.5, osteoporosis, medication. It's not simple like that. The natural treatments are figuring out the root cause. I mean, that's key. So there is some work to figure out, is it inflammation? I mean, there are people that have gotten rid of gluten, their bone density improved. You need to figure out what's causing inflammation. You need to figure out, are you not absorbing nutrients? There's numerous things that could cause osteoporosis. So figuring that out and dealing with it. But yes, the food, the supplements, the exercise, all of those things absolutely can make a difference and can certainly, help your bones. And yes, so I think it depends. Again, if you're so fragile and you see such a low number, you don't want to risk a fracture. But for so many people, that they just need to sort of figure out, or hormones, stress, just when you put these pieces together, I call it the mind, body, spirit approach. When you do MBS, my best self, because that's the beauty of it. So many, if you reduce your stress, you increase your happiness, you're exercising, you're just a totally different person. And you look at the diagnosis as a blessing in disguise, or even just the prevention that you're doing. So yes, so there's so many things that's what I've been doing with people working on the natural approaches. I just finished a summit on natural approaches to osteoporosis and bone health with 55 speakers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll send them to you.
Okay. Yeah. So there's so listeners, you can find Margie at margiebissinger.com, where you will learn about her, find out about some of the programs she teaches, as well as her podcast, Happy Bones, Happy Life, as well as her book, as well as recipes for I assume for just better health overall, but better bone health specifically. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Margie. And you know what? So I challenge you to make me happier. Now that I know I'm a happiness detective, this day is already.
With that.
Yeah.
Start with that. We can do some more things, but yeah, start with really magnifying the good and taking appreciation breaks. During the day, just stop. I mean, I read your book and I've heard all about Joey from your book, which I actually, it's funny. I have the book right here. And I wasn't planning on that either. It's just so funny. I was putting books and I have it right sitting next to me. But so I know that you're doing that. I know how you're focusing on good and enjoying your life and what tickles you. So it's sort of the same exact thing that you're preaching. But yeah, so to make you happier though, start absorbing, really looking for the good, taking appreciation breaks, and just like really celebrating all your wins.
And pass it on. We'll pass it on. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, that's the
and
best
that's what
way
you
to
do all the time on your podcast too. So thank you for joining us. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so much fun being with both of you.
Oh, she was so good. I love her.
Right. And, a person, we all are, we live in the era of the expert, right? People are overflowing with advice for other people. And I think a person's demeanor and state of mind are the best testament to the advice that they give. Right. So we've had a number of women from the Saturday Sisterhood on here. We've had Hannah Crum. We've had Jane Hogan. We've had Mira Desi. We've now had Margie Bissinger. I have never met a group of sort of happier, bubblier, buoyant people who are essentially sharing the fruits of their own experience, as opposed to what passes a lot for advice these days on the internet, which is just cutting and pasting something that someone else said. And you can tell. You can just tell when someone, A, eats their own medicine, and B, whether it works.
And
you heard
the
it.
Weight.
Yeah, Margie's 64. And you heard about her lifestyle there. I hope that we are still that active.
We will be.
We will be. So, again, listeners, MargieBissinger.com. Her website's great. I've been on her podcast a couple months ago. So I can obviously testify to the quality of that show. And, I guess I started in there a little. I missed the point. She was talking about men's bone health. We're only we're half the incidence of females, but I didn't know men got osteoporosis at that same rate.
Yeah, my uncle has it. I guess smoking is a contributing factor to it, and he's having some severe spine issues from it. So yeah, it's not just us gals.
Yeah, and I've had backaches too. Maybe I already have osteoporosis. Jesus.
Yeah, we're feeding you lots of kale and maybe no forward folding. You've got to.
Do you know any happiness detectives I might be able to put on the case? I'm going to change my socials today. I have Badenur in there now, but as soon as we get off here, I'm going to go in and add happiness detective because I'm on the
happiness
case.
Investigator.
I'm
detective.
on the case. All right, so I've got one for you.
All right.
And this one I'm fairly proud of. I wanted to save it for Matt, but I don't have any other ones, so I can't. I was reading this book about the Upanishads. It's actually this one right here by Swami Nikhilananda. Great book. And at first I thought I was looking at a typo because I read a lot of Indian spiritual stuff these days, and maybe once in every book you'll get a typo and I'm just assuming it's because there's language issues on the part of the translator, the type of whatever, right? And so this one is satisfactoria. So it's spelled the same as satisfaction, but with an A at the end and not an N.
Satisfactoria.
And from what I can tell, it means satisfaction. However, what's amazing here and what I'm proud of is that the internet doesn't seem to know about this word. Except for, no dictionaries have it. You can't find an etymology of it. And Google does that thing where it's like, you must be looking for the word satisfaction. It's like, no, I'm not. Let me type this again. And I tried it to find it for a little while. And what does pop up are incidences of it, where I'm sure other people too looked at stuff and was like, that's a typo. But all the incidences are older. Like this translation of the Upanishads, I think, is from the 40s, right? And I found one that I thought might be leading me somewhere, and it was actually a clip from some Catholic newspaper from like 100 years ago. So I think it's an old-timey way to say satisfaction. And the fact that I know about it and the internet does it gives me great satisfactoria. We got to figure out how to say it if we're going to work it into satisfactoria.
You're sure it exists, right? That it's not just
there's too many incidences of it if you look online, and also it's just something that's gone out of favor. So anyway, satisfactoria. That conversation with Margie Bissinger was a great source of satisfactoria.
I agree. 100%.
All right. So closing us out here, unless you've got something.
No, sir.
So we talked about bone health. Margie even talked about spiritual health there. It's all the same thing, right? And our man Aurobindo, a yogi, he talks a lot about connecting to the source. And when you're connected to the source, you'll get a flow of energy into you that will, make all your problems seem minor. And I'm sure that happens to all of us in countless times in a lifetime. It's just that we're not connected to it. We get too distracted. So he was talking, and he was writing the following in 1927. And he said, when the fullness of the supramental life energy is in the body, then all difficulties will be reduced to nothingness. It is the life energy in all the body, not only in the 7 centers, that is demanded. Once in all the 7 centers, it cannot fail to pour through all the body. It must take possession of all the cells, the flesh, muscles, bones, blood, nerves, skin, hair. Then the body will be ready for transformation. So, put your happiness detective hat on. Try to find it in your life. Eat properly. Get enough exercises. And try to stay connected to the spirit. And so that you can let it flow through you. In which case, all difficulties will be reduced to nothingness. What else do you want?
Amen to that.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back in a week.
Bye-bye.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now. Right here, right now. Whoa, right here, right now.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your hosts Duff McDonald and Matt McButter. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio and the Tunnel Under Arundel. Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with the brilliant Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. The podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Andrew Steiner. Our coordinator is Samantha Abramovitz. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck LaBella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com That's STORIC media.com.
My love, my dear.